Hi, everyone. It's Margaret Manning here with lifeafterdeath.com. Lifeafterdeath.com is a community of people who have a fascination with the topic of spirituality, life after death, reincarnation, the afterlife, and just have general questions about that transition in their lives. We ask questions and look for answers by inviting guests to join us to talk about their perspective on this topic. And my guest today is Melinda Bernstein. Melinda is an ordained rabbi. She is a proud mother and grandmother and believes that family and faith are at the heart of her life. She is a Kundalini yoga teacher, a Jewish energy healer, and also a life coach. She basically works as well with death cafes, helping people to come to grips with their fear of death and grieving and recovery, but also is involved in personalized life cycle ceremonies, weddings, and funerals. So Melinda, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. And we've had a couple of other conversations here on topics related to the spiritual side of the Jewish faith and life after death. But I wanted to talk to you about just something a bit broader than that. And it's how this whole conversation about our mortality, about the changes that we go through in our lives, talking about it is good for us, good for our health and good for our well-being. I'd love you to get your thoughts on that.
Talking about it is important, and complaining about it is usually where we begin. Yeah. If we continue to complain about it, then we don't get to solve a problem. Yeah. So I think I become a problem solver just because I had problems and I really didn't want to wallow in them, but I did want to experience them authentically. And talking authentically is where it all begins.
Yeah, so I think that that's a really good point. I mean, talking authentically, though, when you're faced with a very tragic loss, like a death of someone that you love, it's very hard because immediately all your defenses come up, right? So it's just almost a human defense to not want to talk about your demise. You can't even imagine not existing.
Well, it actually depends on who you are. So, I mean, I think that the deeper the conversation, the more interested I am. Small talk is not my thing, and I tend to shy away from it. So there are people who could never have a deep conversation because they just don't want to go there until they're forced to. Usually it's a health crisis, or it's somebody they know, or it's something that happened in the community. And then maybe then they'll have, a moment where they can be vulnerable. It's about vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the challenge, though, is finding techniques and having a path, having a way, having a script for breaking through that. And I know that you've written a book on this topic of dealing with change, and I think in your case, but with the divorce and separation of that kind of mortality, the death of a relationship. And I'd love you to share with us what you came up with, the roadmap that you came up with to help.
Yeah, well, when I was in life coaching school, and I developed the roadmap, which is an acronym, 7 steps, 7 letters of the roadmap, because I discovered that I wasn't being fully responsible for the demise of my marriage. Like it wasn't God's. Put a lot of faith in God to hold us together, maybe too much, and therefore had to take a look at that, had to take responsibility for that. So that was the start of the roadmap. If we don't take responsibility for our actions and our own stuff, then we can't really go anywhere. And that was the platform, that was the beginning for me to evolve. Mm-hmm. And teach this roadmap and share this roadmap and live this roadmap. Whenever I faced an obstacle, I wanted miracles, and everyone can express and experience miracles when they're faced with obstacles.
So responsibility was one. Is this going to be the spelling of the word roadmap? Is that what you were explaining? Yes. Okay, so we've got the R, which is take responsibility. And what is next? This is a map, a roadmap of an actual. You could write these down or watch the video again if you need to go, because it's a pathway to having a conversation with yourself about mortality in the broader sense, in the dealing with change, dealing with loss. So what's the O?
And actually, I do have the roadmap on my website. I do share the outline quite frequently with premarital counseling and with grief counseling. I walk people through the steps. That's one of my side passions that I do besides life cycle ceremonies, because I want people to be on the right path when they walk towards death, when they're grieving after death. I want them to have a roadmap. There was a woman who actually, I did her funeral, not recently, and I'll get to the O in a second.
Yes.
But real quick, her sister, she had actually killed herself, and her sister said she just didn't have a roadmap for life. And when she said that, I was like, I have to share the roadmap more.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go.
Wow.
We have to take responsibility for ourselves and our actions. Once we do that, we can be open to change. We can open ourselves up for change. That's step 2, open. So how do we open? We have to become more aware of our surroundings and the ways of making that change happen. So if we don't know it, we have to find an awareness expert, somebody who can shed light to us.
Yeah.
Awareness is step 3. Step 4, I call them the 3 Ds. It's like hump day, like on Wednesday, when you're trying to get over the hump of the week. But it's also like climbing the mountain. So at the top of the mountain are the 3 Ds: discipline, discernment, and determination. Those are the 3 that most of us will stop and say, I can't do it anymore. But if we do it, the roadmap, if we get to the step 5, we're going to start to manifest. That's step 5. We're going to manifest something. Maybe we're going to manifest something awesome. Maybe just a new enlightenment. Maybe it's not going to be good, and we'll have to go back to step 1 and take responsibility so we can be open again to some new reality, because what we manifested wasn't what we wanted. And we can practice this and practice this and practice this. So once we get to manifesting, and we're manifesting something good or not good, step 6, often the hardest, is allowing. Why do we have trouble allowing? Because we have this piece of us that says we're not worthy. So we have to work on our worthiness. I'm worthy to have this, that, or the other. I'm worthy, but how can I create that worthiness? How can I acknowledge this shadow aspect of me that is drawing me down, that's afraid of my shadow, so to speak. Step 7. Once we learn allowness, and we can go whichever route we want, find all different kinds of tools. And that's also part of the resources that I'm building on my website to have more for people. Yeah. That we live in to the step 7, which is our possibility. Right. Our possibility, our purpose, our passion. First, my book was called The Roadmap to a Prosperous and Purposeful Life. I gave it out to my family on my 50th birthday at dinner. There was one paragraph that said something that hurt the feelings of someone in my family. And it just like kind of closed me down. Wow. And then I reopened the case to myself and went back with the steps. And I rewrote it and I published it as 7 Steps to a Peaceful Heart After Divorce, because I had thought I would become a divorce coach, which didn't last very long. I recognize that divorce is a grief process, a very big one. It was for me. But that roadmap, without that roadmap, and I've weaved that roadmap into the Jewish teachings, 7 days of the week. There's teachings of 7 in Judaism. We would need another series to talk about that. But I do share that the roadmap in many different ways, because it's applicable spiritual application that can help anyone in any situation.
Yeah. No, what I love about that, and I do, by the way, love the number 7. I actually have a huge fascination with the number 7. It's a very interesting number. But I think that the roadmap you've outlined, as I've been listening to you, I keep hearing Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in my mind, because, I worked with her years ago. And I do hear the same process of dealing with your emotions, dealing with your vulnerability, dealing with your anger. All those emotions guide you through. But what I loved about your one was the D's, like that you stayed there, because seriously, if you don't have that determination and that dedication, I've forgotten what they were now, but when you said them, it made me say, and that's where you stop. And that's kind of like make or break time. Like you either go back to your little cave or you keep going.
Well, the truth is, and when I was doing this in coaching school, because I created a program, the Roadmap program. And so when people pay, when you put your money on the line, then you're going to do it. You're going to be, and your coach is going to teach teach you how to discipline yourself and remind you. And sometimes it's a process, but I used to work with people for 4 months at a time. I wouldn't take them for any less because I know from my yogic background, it takes 30 days to create a habit and 30 days to work with it to make it real. And then another 30 days to where it doesn't take that much work. And then I called it define, design, align, and refine your life to the divine. And it was so catchy, but somebody in marketing said, "Oh, that's so wordy," but it works if you work it.
Well, what I love about this conversation is that, this is of lifeafterdeath.com, which is talking about life after death, but that's a very broad word. It's actually life after any kind of death, any kind of separation, any kind of loss. And what you've described, I think, is perfect for a divorce, but it's also for losing a job or losing your self-worth if you've had a traumatic relationship, just in general, not even with your husband, but maybe at work or just in the world, like with your family, that situation you described.
It could be financial loss as well, dealing with bankruptcy or losing your house.
Yeah. And those 7 steps really do apply to any kind of mortality like that, any kind of death experience. It's amazing. So is the book actually available now, Melinda? Can one purchase it?
It's available. The divorce book is available on Amazon, but I give an ebook out for free to anybody who wants to subscribe to my list.
Okay, great.
Usually I work with people that way because that's kind of a way to, I think it's on my website. I'm sure it's on my website in a variety of places for premarital counseling, and then for grief counseling, there's links to it. So people can just get the outline, the ebook. It'll help them move on the roadmap. Create a good roadmap. Like when you get to the fork in the road and you want to know which way to go.
It's a great resource. Okay, so I think people should check out melindabernstein.com, your website. Check out this ebook. And is it like you sign up for your newsletter or something like that?
Something like that.
Something like that. It's on the website.
Contact me.
It's on the website. Okay. Well, Melinda, thank you for sharing this. I feel actually inspired to read this through again and try to apply it to some issues and just in general in life. And I really do appreciate you sharing it with us. Thank you for writing it and for being here. It's great. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our Life After Death YouTube channel and visit our website at lifeafterdeath.com. We are a community of people who are fascinated by the topic of life after death and subjects like near-death experience, the afterlife, reincarnation, and spirituality. Together, we are exploring and discovering these topics together with curiosity and an open heart.